Okay, dear all, let us move on to the third segment of our topic, achievement test, that is standardization of an assessment tool. It is generally entitled as standardization of an assessment tool. It is particularly explained the topic based on the achievement test, that means standardization of an achievement test. The standardization procedure is suitable for any assessment tool. That is why I have entitled as standardization of an assessment tool. Actually, in the first segment we have mentioned that there are two types of achievement test. One is teacher made test and the second is standardized achievement test. And in the second segment I have explained the tool construction, achievement test construction. Actually, it is explained as achievement test construction. The steps are more or less similar to any tool construction. That is the general steps: planning, design preparation, blueprint, preparation of items, scheme of evaluation, question wise analysis. These are the steps for any type of assessment tools. And the procedure, the construction procedure is mainly explained with regard to a teacher made test. Actually, a teacher made test and a standardized test are achievement tests. We can see what is the peculiarity of standardized test. Standardized tests are carefully constructed tests with a uniform procedure of scoring, administering and interpreting the test results. Standardized test has a uniform procedure for scoring, administering and interpreting the test result. These are the three major processes of a test: scoring, administering and interpreting. And a standardized test has a uniform procedure for these three aspects. They consist of items of high quality. Standardized test consists of items or questions of high quality. We will ensure the quality of achievement test, standardized achievement test, by passing through certain mechanisms. The items are presented and selected on the basis of difficulty value, discriminating power and relationship to clearly defined instructional objectives. The quality of the items are determined by estimating the difficulty value of the item, discriminating power of the item and the relationship to clearly defined instructional objectives. These are the peculiarities of a standardized test. In brief, a standardized test is a test having uniform procedures of preparation, scoring, administration and interpretation. Okay. Then steps for construction of a standardized test. The step 1 is planning, step 2 preparation, step 3 tryout, step 4 evaluation. The first step is planning. Planning means planning of a standardized test. We shall discuss this topic with respect to the achievement test, planning of achievement test. Planning of achievement test we have discussed in the last segment. What are the major considerations? There are three major considerations. One is determining the objectives, that means purpose of testing, preparing test specification, that is design of the test, preparation of a table of specification, that is blueprint. These steps we have explained in the last segment, and these steps are similar to standardized test also. One difference is determining the objectives or purpose of testing. It may vary from a teacher made test and a standardized test. In the last segment, we have explained the preparation of a teacher made test actually. It can be generalized into the construction of the planning stage or the preparation stage of a standardized test. The objectives of teacher made test and a standardized test may vary. In the sense, teacher made test is prepared by a teacher for her own students, whereas a standardized test is prepared by experts for a large population. I shall explain. A teacher made test prepared by a teacher at SNM College Malingara may not be suitable for the students at Assumption College Changanasheri. See, because the students, the cultural background of the students may vary, the teaching learning procedures given to the students may vary, the target objectives set by the respective teachers may vary. Hence, the teacher made test prepared for one institution may not be suitable for the other institution, because the objectives are more or less localized. Localized objectives are set for teacher made test. The purpose of testing also may differ. Whereas the standardized test is meant for all the BA students of Kerala or all the BA students of MG University, Mahatma Gandhi University, and this, hence this standardized test, the university examination question paper may be considered as a standardized test. It is meant for a large group of students. Teacher made test is meant for a small group of students. Okay, determining the objectives. Then the objectives determination for a standardized test is a little bit different from the objectives of a teacher made test. According to these objectives, the design and the blueprint may have some difference. We can very easily change over to this standardized test design and the blueprint. Okay, step 2 is preparing the test. The preparation stage includes the following functions. One is preparing test items, that means questions, then directions for test items, then directions for administration, scoring key and marking scheme, and question wise analysis chart. These steps are more or less similar to the teacher made test. One is preparing test items. We will prepare the test items according to the designed blueprint. Then the directions for test items, because this test is meant for a large population, so proper directions are to be written on the test itself, because the test constructor and the administrator are different for a standardized test. Somebody has prepared the test and some other persons are meant to administer the test. So, the directions for the test items are to be mentioned in the question paper. In the university question paper, it is well written. Answer all questions. Each question carries this type of marks, like that. Okay, directions for administration also. The timing of the test, and is there any peculiarity in the administration procedures. These things are to be mentioned in the standardized test. Then scoring key and marking scheme, like in the previous case, question wise analysis chart also in the previous case. Then preparing the test items. That this items is called preliminary draft. Actually, in a standardized test, we will prepare more questions uh, than we needed, because if you need 30 questions for a standardized test, you will prepare around 90 questions or 60 questions for the preliminary draft, because the procedure, the scientific procedure for the construction of a standardized test is ensuring the quality of the items. We will eliminate the questions which are under quality. The following principles help in preparing relevant test items. 1. The test items must be appropriate for the learning outcome to be measured. Okay, it is understood. Test items must be appropriate for the learning outcome. Learning outcome means the objectives. Objectives after the teaching learning process is called learning outcome. Before the teaching learning process, we call it as objective, and after the teaching learning process, we call it as outcome, learning outcome. The test items should measure all types of instructional objectives and whole content area. Okay. The test items should be clear, comprehensive, and free from ambiguity. Then the items which have hidden meanings should not be included. The question should be straightforward. Direct questions is to be prepared. The test items should be of appropriate difficulty level. We have mentioned that the different difficulty level has to be maintained while preparing the questions. The test items must be free from technical errors and irrelevant clues. Test items should be free from radical, ethnic, and sexual bias. Okay, it should be biased. It should not be biased. The preliminary draft must have more than double the item required for the test, that I have mentioned earlier. Okay, then the most important step of standardization is tryout of the test. Tryout means we are trying out the items prepared. The preliminary draft is administered to a large random sample of the population for which the test is constructed. The test is constructed for the MG University BSc students. A sample from this population is to be collected, and we need to administer the test. The size of the sample for tryout is usually taken as 370. Even a sample of 100, that is the absolute minimum, is also suggested. We can collect a sample of 370 in number or 100 in number and administer the test. The purpose of this tryout is to select good items for the test and reject the poor items. Means first filtering of the item is doing here. First level filtering. We will administer the test, and there may be questions with ambiguity, there may be repeated questions, there may be questions which cannot be answered by the students. These questions need to be avoided, excluded from the questions, and the first level filtering of the item is conducted during this tryout. Then tryout of the test includes two activities. One is item analysis. Second one is preparing final draft of the test. And item analysis, first step is item. This is the most scientific procedure in the standardization procedure. Item analysis means analysis of the item one by one in order to ensure the quality of the test. It is done by, this procedure is used to judge the quality of an item. It's called item analysis. The quality or worth of an item is judged by analyzing two important characteristics of the item, namely the quality of, there are many aspects to ensure quality of the item, but the scientific methods for ensuring the quality of item is to find out two indices. One is difficulty index, second one is discriminating power. Difficulty index and discriminating power. That means we are doing the item analysis by determining the difficulty index and discriminating power of each item. What is meant by difficulty index? Let us see. Difficulty index of an item is defined as the percentage of students who responded the item correctly. Difficulty index means the percentage of students who responded the item correctly. And discriminating power of the item is the ability of an item to discriminate a high ability student from a low ability student. That means the ability of the item to discriminate the better student from a lower level student. These two indices are to be calculated, estimated for doing item analysis. Then let us see how can we calculate the difficulty index and discriminating power. Difficulty index DI is equal to U plus L by 2N, and discriminating power DP is equal to U minus L by N. Then what is U and what is L and what is N? U means the number of correct responses in the upper group. U means, for the time being, you noticed that the number of correct responses in the upper group is U. The number of correct responses in the lower group is L. And N means number of students in each group. Let us see what is U. How can we calculate U and L and N? First, the test papers should be arranged from highest to lowest obtained score. First, you administer the preliminary draft of the test to a sample. Consisting of 370 or 100 students, and you arrange and estimate the marks of the students. You measure the marks of the output of the achievement test and arrange the students, arrange the answer scripts in ascending or descending order with respect to the marks. That is, the test paper should be arranged from highest to lowest obtained score. According to the score, you arrange the answer scripts. From the arranged sheets, the top 27% and bottom 27%, and top 27% is the upper group and bottom 27% is the lower group. I mean, you arrange the answer scripts according to the marks and the top 27% of students. If the sample size is 370, top 27% is 100 students, and the bottom 27 students is also 100 students. You collect the top 27% answer scripts and the bottom 27% answer scripts and discard the middle 46% of answer scripts. Now you have only upper group and lower group. Middle group is discarded. Got it? Tabulate the number of pupils in the upper and lower group who selected each alternative for each test item. Then you take the answer scripts one by one. You take the first answer scripts in the upper group. Mark it as student A. Then you tabulate the questions. If there are 30 questions, 30 columns need to be marked, and you put tick mark against the right answer, into mark against the wrong answer, and omissions for omissions. Like that, tabulate the number of pupils in the upper and lower group who selected each alternative for each test item. ഏതെല്ലാം ടെസ്റ്റ് ഐറ്റമാണ് എടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളത്, അവരെങ്ങനെയാണ് റെസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്തതെന്നുള്ളത് നിങ്ങൾ ടാബ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് വയ്ക്കുക. 1 by 1 ആൻസർ സ്ക്രിപ്റ്റ് എടുത്തിട്ട്. അപ്പോൾ 100 സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ഉണ്ട്, 30 items ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ you will have 100 rows and 30 columns. Then find out the number of students who responded the item correctly from upper group as well as from lower group and mark it as U and L. We need to find out U and L for calculating discriminating power and difficulty index. U means the number of students who have done the item correctly in the upper group. We have an upper group of students and a table in which the responses of the students are tabulated. Among this, take the first item. Count the number of correct answers, or count the number of students who have done the question correctly. Let it be U. U for the first item. Then like that you find out the number of students corrected the answer in the lower group also. Let it be L. Then you got U and L for item 1. U and L for question number 1. Then you calculate U plus L by 2n. N means total number of students. N is 100 students. 27% students is 100 for our upper group. Total number of upper group and lower group is n. So you get U, L and n for item number 1. Then you calculate U plus L by 2n as DI, difficulty index, and calculate U minus L by n as discriminating power, DP, for item number 1. That is the fifth step. Estimate DI and DP for each item. For all items, you calculate DI and DP by estimating U and L from the table. Okay, and you prepare a table. You write the items in the first column, DI in the second column, and DP in the third column, and analyze, observe the DI and DP. Difficulty index, selection of items. Higher the value of the difficulty index, easier the item is. And note that if the difficulty index is higher, that means U and L are high value, then the item is easy because more students more students responded the item correctly. The higher the difficulty index, easier the item is. If most students answered an item correctly, it can be inferred that the item was an easy one. If most students answered an item incorrectly, then it should have been a difficult one. DI very minimum anengil, that means the item is very difficult. So the items answered correctly by 100% or 0% of the examinees are insignificant. The item is answered correctly by 100% students, that means everybody can answer the item. If nobody answered it correctly, means nobody can answer it. Avoid that questions. Avoid those questions. And you can select the questions with average difficulty level. That means around 0.5 difficulty level questions maybe can be selected for the final draft. And discriminating power selection. If it has a positive value, the item has positive discrimination. This means that a larger proportion of for the more knowledgeable students than poor students got the item correct. DP is positive means U is greater than L. DP is calculated by the formula U minus L by N. U minus L by N. If U is greater than L, you will get a positive discriminating power. That means more students in the upper group responded the item correctly than the lower group. If the discriminating power is negative, that means more students in the lower group responded the item correctly than the upper group. Then you feel that you should sense that there is an error in the question, because usually more people in the upper group need to answer the item correctly. So, a positive value of discriminating power is feasible or advisable. Then an item with negative discrimination decreases the validity of the test, and that must be discarded. No doubt, the item with negative discriminating power should be avoided. If a test item is answered correctly by equal number of upper and lower group students, the item has zero discrimination. It should also be discarded. Zero discriminating power item also need to be discarded. The item having zero or negative discrimination index must be discarded or revised. In general, the higher the discrimination index, the better the item. It is advisable to have discriminating power as a high value. That means discriminating power may lies between 0 and 1. It is a decimal value. So, more than 0.6 or 0.4 discriminating power is advisable, and between 0.4 and 0.6 or 0.3 and 0.7 DI, difficulty index, is advisable. Two values, DI and DP. DI average level, discriminating power higher level, that is advisable. Prepare the final draft of the test. After item analysis, only good items with appropriate difficulty level with satisfactory discriminating power are retained, and these items form the final test. After calculating the DI and DP, we will select the suitable item for the final draft. The selected items are put in the final draft of the test according to the blueprint. Time required for the test is determined. Now the test can be administered to a large sample for estimating the parameters of validity, reliability and norms. The final form of the test prepared according to the final blueprint is printed. The answer sheet is also printed. Then you have to prepare the final draft of the test by including all the good items. That means the remaining items, the disqualified items are discarded, and you will select the good items from the initial draft and fix the final draft of the test. Then the step 4 is evaluating the test. Evaluation of the test means ensuring quality of the test. It can be done by establishing validity, reliability, norms and norms. You know that the quality of an achievement, there are many qualities of achievement test, and you have learned in the last class validity, reliability, objectivity, etc. In a standardized test, you need to estimate the validity, reliability and norms as part of the standardization process, and it has another scientific processes. If you need it, if you want it, you can ask me later. It is a very elaborate process, and explain later. And you will in short, you need to fix the validity value, reliability value and specific norms in the standardized test. You have to specify these details in the test itself, because the norms are needed for interpretation of the learners according to the norms. Grade norm, age norm, percentile norm, these are the norms, and these norms are depicted in the standardized test, so that any teacher who administers the standardized test can interpret his or her students. And the last procedure is preparation of test manual. Preparation of manual is the last step in test. It gives a clear indication regarding the procedure of the test administration, the scoring methods and time limits. It also includes instructions regarding the test. I have mentioned that the standardized test has uniform scoring, administration and interpretation procedures. So this procedure, the manual of these procedures has to be written in the standardized test, because the test constructors are experts and they are those people are not administering the test. The administrators of the test are teachers, apart from the creator of the test. So every administrative norms, interpretation norms and the scoring norms are to be depicted in the standardized test. And this is all about the construction of a standardized achievement test. The preliminary part, the construction of the test is more or less similar to teacher made test, and the scientific procedure of tryout and item analysis is in addition to the teacher made test is to be conducted for standardizing the test. And finally, the determination of the validity, reliability, norms and preparation of the test manual also need for a standardized test. Okay, hope you have got a brief idea about the standardization procedure. Actually, it needs a lengthy elaboration and explanation. Explore this stipulations, explore these points and find out the detailed procedure of standardization. If you feel any doubt, please contact me. Thank you.